So we're rewarding people for mistakes, but what that does is it lowers the fear. Now we're actually tackling problems. We give people about an hour a day. We work a 4-hour, what am I saying? We work a 4-day work week, 10 hours a day in the factory. So they get
Okay.
an hour a day to improve their processes. And it sounds expensive, but believe me, when they're fixing things and mistake-proofing things, it gets harder and harder to find things that are going wrong. And they're looking for what's going wrong.
Hello, everybody. Gavin Coyle. I'm the Gaffer. I have Glenn. Glenn is with a company called SnapCab, which is a very niche type of a business. You'll get stuck into that. But that's not the main reason we're here today. The main reason we're here today is to talk about employee engagement. Don't switch off your YouTube channel yet. Don't cancel us, because this is going to be a great episode, because we're talking about how do we put the person first within the business? How do we look at the whole ecosystem of a construction company, and how do we get the best out of our main asset, which is our people? Do we do enough in that area? Are we more focused on the profit and the scalability and the legal challenges and getting new customers? Or do we not spend enough time focusing on the thing that is in front of us every day, the people that make the success of the company, the people that make your clients happy, the people that create all of these innovations that you have to build on a day-to-day basis? Your people. Glenn, welcome to the show. I'm looking forward to unpacking this
Yeah,
particular
Gavin, me
topic.
too. Me too.
Yeah. What part of the world are you in for our viewers?
I'm in Kingston, Ontario. I have
Good.
two manufacturing companies, and one is in Kingston, Ontario.
You are a very successful business founder, business owner in your own right. Give us a snapshot of the Snap Cab,
Okay,
if you don't
so
mind.
well, I would love to tell you my story. It starts with a kid with a lot of learning disabilities, ended up with 140 employees. 95 of them are in Pennsylvania, in the United States, outside of Philadelphia. We make elevator interiors there. And then in Kingston, Ontario, we primarily make office pods.
Wow.
And we have about 50 employees here in Kingston, Ontario. We have
Okay.
over, I
Wow.
think, 120,000 square feet of manufacturing space. So I'd love to share with you my story, because I think I'm a good person that represents somebody that didn't graduate from college, learning disabilities, and it was through engaging my employees that brought the success to SnapCab that I get to share in.
Love it. I love it. Go for it, pal. Tell us. Wind
Okay,
back the
well,
clock and tell us.
Okay, sure. Well, first of all, something I realized much later in life was that there's like three main drivers for almost anybody, and everybody has these drivers. I just wanted to go over them with you really quickly. But people are driven by money, people are driven by their reputation, and people are driven by a feeling of being useful to other people. And depending on the order that you have those in, uh, predicts the kind of quality of life that you have. And I drivers took different places in my life. So maybe when I tell you my story, you'll notice that when I wasn't doing as well, I had reputation up front, and when I did better, I had being useful up front. So when I was a kid, did really well as a kid until I got to a reading age, and then I had these learning disabilities that didn't really show up until I started reading. By the time I got into fourth grade, I was so far behind my class, I spent a lot of my time out being tutored. I excelled with my tutors, but when I went into the class, my classmates treated me as the dumb kid in the class, which I was. I was the dumbest kid at least that's the way I felt. And I ended up having hives, and I was under a lot of stress. And I realized, looking back on it as an adult, that my biggest problem wasn't that I had dyslexia and hypoglycemia. My problem was that my classmates treated me in a way that made it so that I couldn't function. I decided when I got my own business that I wasn't going to treat I wasn't going to treat my employees the way I was treated in school. So, but I didn't start off with a bunch of employees. I started off in business when I was 23 in a barn with some buddies of mine from college, and we each started our own little woodworking businesses. And I was working with my wife at the time, like refinishing furniture and fixing furniture. What I really wanted to do was build really high end furniture. I was really interested in my reputation. I wanted to have a reputation of building amazing furniture. Well, when I started having kids, I couldn't afford those kids because building amazing furniture doesn't pay well. It's a wonderful way to spend your day, but it's not a great way to make money. So my father at the time was partners in an elevator maintenance company, and he pointed out that for them to fix the inside of an elevator, they had to tear out the entire shell and order a new shell from the factory and install it. And he
Okay.
said, if you could remodel elevators, I think there's a market there. So I got a job. I got a job doing a reception desk for an office building, and they wanted the uh, elevators to match. And my dad showed me how to shut off the elevators and get on top and do the stuff I needed to do. And I was told that my price was way too low. So I raised my price on the elevator interiors, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute. Nobody ever says my price is too low. So I ended up taking my portfolio of kitchen cabinets and bookcases and went around Philadelphia to the elevator maintenance companies, and they all said, yeah, we'd love you to remodel our elevators. So
Wow.
I got into the remodeling of elevators.
Wow.
And then because I was remodeling the elevators myself, it was very cumbersome the way was typically done then. And I invented a new way of having stacking panels to go up the wall to remodel elevators. I patented that system, and Otis Elevator saw my website and that patent. And I chose to share what I was doing. I was like, should I share my sort of trade secret or should I put it out there?
Yeah.
I chose to put it out there. And by the way, I've been successful by sharing everything I possibly can share. Like I just get farther in life. People have shared with me, so I share with people, and I think it just does better for everybody. Otis saw that. They gave me a national contract for remodeling elevators, and there was only 5 of us, 5 cabinet makers, and we were like sort of high-end custom cabinet makers, and now we've got a national contract to remodel elevators.
I love it.
So
Absolutely
we
love it.
start making the elevators as fast as we can. Um,
Sorry, no,
the wi
you don't do you don't, sorry to cut across you. Don't do the engineering side. It's purely the joinery. It's purely the finish side of the elevator.
We just do the decorative part, the wall
Okay.
panels and the
No problem.
ceilings. It
No problem.
includes the lights. We don't do the doors, the control panel, or the cables, or the motors, just the
Yeah.
decorative part. So we get working as hard as we possibly can and try to take skilled people and say, "Work faster," and you can't scale up a business based on highly skilled people. Like, you can't run out and say, "Okay, we need to hire an army of really skilled people." So we were falling behind, and it was just turning into a disaster. When I started, my mentor said, Glenn, you better license these people because you can't do this contract, a national contract." And I thought, well, I've got one thing I did get from school is I got a lot of experience at failing. And I thought, you know what? I'd really love to fail at this. If I was going to fail at something, I'd love to fail at trying to do a national contract with Otis Elevator. That would be a great failure.
Go for it.
And because
Yeah.
you got to try. So it was so frustrating because we couldn't keep up. And then a buddy of mine put me onto this book called The E Myth. I don't know if you've ever heard of
I
that
heard of
book.
it.
Have
Yeah,
you?
I've heard of it. I haven't read it. I've heard of it. Yeah.
Okay, well, I recommend it. And,
Yeah.
the E-Myth says that you wanna build your even if you have one business, you wanna build it as if you're making, 1,000 businesses that are identical. You wanna build it like you're making a franchise, like McDonald's. You wanna have all the tools, all the systems and processes in place. So after I read that book, I got the idea of starting a second location in Canada back in, '98, and having the idea of a second place, I did what they said in the book, which is instead of working in your business, you work on your business. So I'm building the systems and processes, imagining starting a second location, and what would we have to have for manuals and tools and all that. So we systematized our workflow, and now I'm able to hire like landscapers to come in and do what these high-end cabinet makers were doing, but faster, almost twice as fast, because everything was lined up, all the work construction was right there. And now we started to really grow. Then Otis Elevator sent us to their quality school called Ito University, where I met, well, we were taught by the teachings of a Japanese person, Mr. Ito, who had come from Panasonic, who said that the gold was in the problems. The gold is in the mistakes. If you can identify a mistake, you're just going to make more money.
So
So we got
you were in the quality. You met you were doing the quality school with Otis.
right. So that's when we got into lean manufacturing was
Okay.
through Otis Elevator, and the idea that you want to find the mistakes that that was amazing.
Yeah. Let me tell you a quick antidote on Otis, if you don't mind.
Oh, please do.
I'm nearly sure it was Otis now. Could be wrong. So for anybody out there, you can correct me, put it in the comments. But they put for a hotel, they put in a really high end lift. And again, I'm starting to be corrected. It might not be Otis. I'm nearly sure it was though. And they spent a ton of money on this lift in this brand new hotel, and the customers were giving out because the lift was too slow between the floors by the time they got to the
Mhm.
ground floor. And obviously, the hotel were very disappointed that they were getting this poor feedback. So they went back to the lift manufacturer, said, "Look, is there any chance you could speed things up here because they're, you know, every feedback has been love the hotel, but the lift is too slow." So brought in somebody and they said, yeah, it's going to be about just over 1 million to change the drive and change the engineering of the lift. And so they went back and they were looking at this, and some smart guy turned around and said, listen, why don't we do this instead of changing all the engineering and whatever else? Why don't we put floor to ceiling mirrors in the lift?
Oh, yeah?
And within the first week and ever since, all of the complaints. So the theory was people were okay to be in a slow lift when they can see themselves and touch the hair and
Oh,
whatever it
that's
was.
good.
Brilliant. I thought it was like they did. It was just that they were bored in the lift between the different floors because, no offense, Glenn, but
Yeah.
the interiors didn't really excite them. But once you put a mirror in front of them, they were
That
happy.
well, yeah, I've got another quick little mirror story. We found out that you shouldn't put downlights in a ceiling in a hospital with a mirrored ceiling because people going in a gurney are gonna
Oh
think they're having
yeah,
an out of body experience. They feel like they're floating above their bodies.
yeah,
So we
brilliant.
tell people, "Don't put downlights with mirrors on the ceiling."
Ah! Let's get back. You were in the quality conversation.
Oh, right,
So
right.
yeah,
So around the same time, so I was learning about quality and learning about mistakes, but I hadn't learned that much yet. I was just getting into it, and one of the guys that worked for me, had skipped a quality process, a checkpoint, and shipped a job to Mexico, and the job was messed up, so we had to replace the job, and I thought, "You know what? I know what I'll do. I'm gonna yell at Bob because that way Bob will know that, that this is back when I had this attitude of I was putting money first now. Like, this is before I was
yeah,
putting my reputation first. Now I'm putting money first. You workers are here to make me money. I'm employing you so you can make me money. I'm gonna yell at you so that, that'll be a good
yeah.
incentive. So I yell at Bob, who's is my best guy, for messing this job up. What do you know? Bob quits. I'm like, "Oh, no. That wasn't what I was going for." So I gotta give him a raise, keep him in the boat, and then I was having trouble in my marriage at the same time. So I had gotten a counselor that was a really unique person. This counselor, his career had been as a parole officer dealing with people coming out of prison. And I realized he said, people are led by what they love. And he also pointed out that the way I'm treating people is the way they manage people in the prison. We manage people in the prison by yelling at them, by fear of punishment. And I realized, oh my gosh, I'm treating my employees as if they're prisoners and people are led by what they love. And it's like, well, I know for sure I'm led by what I love. And so I got thinking about Bob, and it's like, well, I know he loves woodworking. That's why he's here making these elevator interiors. And here I'm yelling at him at the job where he loves to come. So I was putting together that people are led by what they love and what Mr. Ito had said about the mistakes, the mistakes are actually gold, and I hadn't really, treated it that way. Once you know it, Bob messes up another job. He put the wrong material on the ceiling of an elevator cab that we got shipped to Hawaii. So
Oh,
I sent Bob and his wife to Hawaii to spend a day to fix the elevator. Then he spent the rest of the week on an all expense paid trip to Hawaii. So what do you suppose, Gavin, was more inspiring to Bob? Getting yelled at or the trip to Hawaii?
I'd say I would say that there was probably more lifts where it had the wrong material in them, depending on the location.
Right, right. Well, that's true. It happened to be in Hawaii. So
No, but I get it. I get it. Like, yeah, you messed up, but I'm gonna reward you for your loyalty because you didn't do it out of malice. You didn't do it out of, trying to get out of a job or trying to get out too fast. It was a genuine mistake. But
that's
how do
right.
you learn? How do you learn from that from a business?
Right. So we included Bob in, like, how do we have this never happen again?
Yeah,
And he had a lot of incentive to help us because 'cause he'd had this trip to Hawaii, and he said that we weren't checking our material when it was coming in the door. So now, ever since then, we check our material. Is it the correct material? Is it the right size? Is it damaged? Because there's no point in building a project if you're starting off with bad material, the wrong material.
yeah.
So I'm sure he's saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars since then, if
Wow,
not millions, in because now we do an incoming inspection that we weren't doing at the
inventory.
time.
Yeah,
So we decided to by now we had I've got 140 employees now, but at the time we had about 20 employees, and we decided to change how we were managing these workers. So we started having the managers carry gift cards in their back pocket, and you've heard of catching people doing something right. Well,
yeah.
we were catching people doing something wrong, and when somebody did something, 'cause I think virtually everybody in that environment was used to competing. Like, the last thing you wanna do is show that you did something wrong because 'cause you'll get in trouble. So we wanted to change that atmosphere, so we started giving people gift cards at the beginning of just for doing something wrong, and then we included them in the fixing the problem, so then they're out to dinner with their family, and they're like, "Hey, why are we out for dinner?" "Well, I
Well,
highlighted that you can scratch a panel on a bench, and then I was part of the solution on fixing the bench so we didn't scratch panels anymore on that bench." "Oh, that's awesome, Dad," Since then, that system has evolved, so now what we have is about, 13 or 14 boards in every work area around the building, and everybody is tracking what's going wrong on these boards with Post-it notes. Then every day we have a walk-around meeting with the leadership team, and they go to every board, and everybody presents what's going wrong in the company, and then we give them, we have these rolls of carnival tickets. The carnival tickets that say
yeah,
admit one,
yeah,
meaning admitting one to go to the circus? We use it for admit one, like we had a
yeah. Mistake.
problem. Each ticket's numbered. If you ever look at those, they're all numbered. So
Yeah,
we know how many of those we give out every
love
month.
it,
We give
love it,
out about 4 or 500 of those a month,
love it.
and whoever has the most wins, gets to do a prize wheel spin at our company meeting every month.
Wow.
So we're rewarding people for mistakes, but what that does is it lowers the fear. Now we're actually tackling problems. We give people about an hour a day. We work a 4-hour what am I saying? We work a 4-day work week, 10 hours a day in the factory. So they get
Okay.
an hour a day to improve their processes, and it sounds expensive, but believe me, when they're fixing things and mistake proofing things, it gets harder and harder to find things that are going wrong, and they're looking for what's going wrong. And we've got these values at SnapCab, and our values are be kind, be authentic, and be useful. So we start with being kind because you don't want to have that environment that I had in my classroom when I was a kid. You have to have an environment where, if you want to get in trouble and lose your job at SnapCab, be unkind and make it difficult for your coworkers to work here. Be authentic, meaning be authentic with what's going right, what's going wrong, and then being useful is helping your coworker and, of course, taking care of the customer. So those values have been incredibly important to the SnapCab. We know who to hire based on those values. We know who to part ways with because of those values. So I would say it's in our DNA. That would be like in our DNA.
Hi guys, as you're enjoying this podcast, I just wanted to take a few seconds to let you know about my company, Coyle Group. We're not just another safety recruitment agency. We're your partners in building a safer future. With over 25 years of experience and more than 1 million hours of safety work completed, our mission is clear. Provide top-tier health and safety contractors tailored to the unique needs of your project. We also carry out on-site construction audits. From wind energy to power stations, utilities and engineering projects, our global reach and specialised expertise ensures your operations are not just compliant, but exemplary. For more information on how ensuring safety and sustainability of your products using our team of HSE contractors, visit coyle-group.com or click on the show notes or video description now. I've also put a booking link into the description for you to click and have a one-to-one conversation with me. Now, back to the podcast. Enjoy and see you soon.
It's just clarify. Can we just clarify one thing, or can I clarify one thing with you?
Sure.
Sorry, Glenn. The mistake, when the person makes the mistake, you said that they're part of, the sort of royalty, if you like, that you give them a sort of a gift card, or you give them some sort of incentive.
Right.
When if it's if it's their own mistake, you're then asking them to help you
Mistake proof it.
fix the mistake, help
Right.
you fix. That person has to be central to solving the problem. So if
That's right.
something's cut wrong, why was it cut wrong? How did you know not to do the right thing? And how do we learn from that so that the next person like you doesn't do the same thing?
That's right. That's right. When
Lovely.
we started, myself and the leaders went around and put in all the systems and said, "Well, this is the way you work it. This is the way you do it."
Yeah.
But then once we put in this Gemba system, first of all, we call mistakes turnbacks, and a turnback is anything that hinders you from the flow of work. And our goal is to mistake proof everything.
Mm,
And I realized that once we put in the system, me going to the shop, I always have another way of, there's always like multiple ways of fixing any problem. When I was in the shop saying, why don't we move that bench over there and why don't we bolt that tool on that thing? I was usurping my employees of the autonomy to figure it out themselves.
mhm.
And I found out it was better for me to stay out of the shop, let them figure it out. And if they had a bad solution, it's going to wind up on that Gemba board again. So
Yeah,
it's kind of like a self-healing system.
yeah, yeah,
So the the way I'm finally, there's this book that we've written. It's called The Human Business, and the final part of the human business is operating like a human body. So most businesses have this top-down organization, which is usually like a dictatorship. Just do what I tell you to do. You're
yeah,
here to make money for me. In
yeah,
fact, there was a economist back in the 70s, Milton Friedman, that said the purpose of corporations is to make money for the shareholders,
yeah,
which is true. But
yeah.
boy, did corporations grab onto that idea. And do you know two-thirds of all employees are disengaged, and an engaged worker is 3 times more productive than a disengaged worker.
Yeah,
So
and
I think it may be true that a corporation is supposed to make money for its shareholders, but if an employee feels like they're being taken advantage of to make money for the owners, that's not very, very inspiring, right?
no. Well, and as Gordon Gekko said, greed is good,
That's
in
right.
the famous
Right, right.
famous
So
saying
if you
in
go
Wall
back
Street.
That's right. So if you go back to those 3 motivators, reputation, money, or being useful, if you put money first, you're gonna end up having disengaged workers. If you put being useful first and trying to take care of your workers and take care of your customers, the money's there as a tool. It's not the goal. The money's a tool to help you reach the goal of being useful. And a reputation is a natural outcome of being useful, and so is making money a natural
Yeah,
outcome. So I do very well financially, but my goal isn't to make money. But I price everything appropriately. Everything's balanced based on, you want to provide your products and service for your cost needs to be less than what your customer's willing to pay. You're
yeah.
creating value for them, and that gap is the profit, right?
Well, let me throw a curveball at you then, if you don't mind, Glenn.
Sure.
What if the employee's value is first with the money, in terms of, well, I need to make enough money here and I want as much as I can get because money is my goal. What if
Yeah.
their value set is money first and not
Well,
the leaders,
yeah,
not
I
just the
think they
leaders?
should work for a company that's a high commission sales company or something.
Great
I
answer.
I believe that.
Great answer.
Thanks. Well, okay. All right. Gavin, I'll explain something else about SnapCab. Is I look at SnapCab as a community. Some people say their companies are like a family.
Yeah.
I don't think it's like a family, but I think we all move to a community that suits us
Yeah.
pretty much, right? Like people move from here to there for different reasons. And I see my company as a community, and I invite people into my community and invite people out of my community that aren't a fit. And we're looking for people. We interview people for a love of building community with each other. I'm looking for people that like to see other people be successful. We're looking for people that have a kindness about them. And then we look for people that have a love of the job that needs to be done.
Mm.
So, somebody that wants to work with their hands is in the factory, somebody wants to work with numbers is in accounting,
Yeah.
and so on. And we do development meetings. We continually try to get people more and more into jobs that are aligned with what they love.
Hmm.
For instance, I had a guy that uh, he heard the values of the company. He wanted to work here. He said, "I don't care what job I do. I just want to work here because of your values of be kind, be authentic, and be useful."
Yeah.
He was building our pod doors out in the shop, and we did a development meeting with him where we're telling him more about what we do here at SnapCab, and he's telling us what he's really interested in. And he said, I think I'm going to leave in about 6 months. I've built enough pod doors. I've learned all I can learn there. And we said, "Well, what do you really love?" He goes, "You know what? I had a job doing kids camps. I love doing kids camps. I love teaching the kids. I love teaching." And I'm like, "Man, I'd like to run this place like a kids camp." So we took him to Japan. We taught him lean manufacturing. He came back and now he's our trainer. And this guy is on fire training.
Yeah.
He's training people in Canada. He's training people in the US.
Love it.
And he is just thrilled with his job. So we
Yeah.
try to do this the best as we can with everyone. And our goal is that somebody could find their life purpose at work. So for instance, I need about 3 people to do my job of CEO. I've got an assistant that helps me with my calendar, my email. I think when we started this chat, Gavin, we were getting on these computers. I showed you my young tech
Yeah.
person that was helping
Yeah.
me with his clicking things.
Yeah.
My
She's
favorite
great.
thing is not clicking things on my computer to make sure I can hear you. So I I think of my workers as being a co-essential. And in North America, the culture is everybody should be independent and be able to not need anybody. And I
Yeah.
would say I want to be part of a community where I'm needed and I need my coworkers. And that makes for a very satisfying work life.
I can see why you must be busy in terms of giving talks on this subject because you might not know it, but you come across very authentic yourself, obviously, and you have a passion. You speak very passionate about the subject. It's nearly like as if the business is secondary to the purpose.
Yeah. Well, the business is the proof of the idea that you could run a business and the business runs more like an organism, less like a machine.
Yeah.
And I like using the analogy of a human body. I've got my leadership in my head.
Yeah.
I've got my sales and marketing is in my face. I'm using it right now to brand myself to you, Gavin.
Yeah.
Manufacturing is in my hands, but my nervous system, probably the most important part is your management team getting the message back and forth.
Yeah.
If you had a rock in your shoe, wouldn't you take the rock out of your shoe?
Yeah. You
But
would.
how many corporations are top down and there's a message going from the head down, but there's not that many messages coming back up?
We haven't. Do you think we've solved it? We haven't, or do you think? Well, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. How big is the problem in the workplace?
I think it probably started with the Industrial Revolution and has grown, and I don't know how satisfied you are as with how things are going in the world right now, but I think we need to relook at how are we doing business here on Earth, and what is it that has the biggest influence globally? And I'm gonna say it's businesses. I
Mm.
think governments have a big influence, but the government's only made up and funded by businesses. Who's
Yeah.
the employer? Businesses. And the other day, I was asking myself the question. I got playing with AI. AI is affecting everything, and I was just saying, well, what's globally? What's a global organization, and what's their charter? Like, what's their intention? And they were saying, well, like, and it's like it's about creating peace and prosperity for people globally. Well, how about most countries? Like, let's say the U.S. What's the point of the United States? What does their uh, what does their charter say?
What's their mission? What's their mission? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, to create peace and prosperity for people. I'm
How's
like,
that
okay,
working?
states are about the same. How about companies? What's theirs? Oh, make as much money for the owners as possible. Oh, okay. Well, what's the mission of most people? Well, most people, there's a mixed bag of people, but a lot of people want to do something useful and have a purpose in life.
Yeah.
So there's one thing that's really standing out like a sore thumb is what's the mission of businesses? And I think we got to relook at what's the mission of businesses. And I can tell you, I think they would thrive even more if they're aimed at taking care of the workers and taking care of the customers. They're just going to do better.
Yeah.
And nobody likes business owners. They can smell it, they can feel it when they're out for themselves,
So,
and
so
we have to change this.
do you think we've sterilized businesses to the point where we have created these mundane boundaries and structures and rules and standards, and we've relied on those as being our framework for controlling
Yeah.
people, for controlling people?
Well, I think so, like, it's just the norm, and
Yeah,
what the framework is and what the norm is goes against having people thrive. It goes
yeah,
against the employees, really, so they're
yeah,
just waiting until they retire. I have to go to work.
yeah. But it's just, it's so what you're saying is, and again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like the natural human being shouldn't have to be controlled in that type of environment. They should be allowed to be themselves and actually walk into work as if they're walking into their home place. It's
I
just
think so.
a different
Right.
environment.
Well, well, you're a person, Gavin. Tell me, what is it that gets you up in the morning and makes your life worthwhile?
Show me the money, Glenn. Oh, money messing, money messing. I have people. It's people. Why would I do the
Well,
podcast?
yeah, I mean,
Why would I do the podcast?
when you're getting near to the end of your life, I'm sure, check with even the money people, check with what's meaningful to them. Is it the people that come around, or is it
Yeah,
the piles of money they have,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's the people. So
yeah,
my pay at work is the relationships I get to have with my coworkers. That's my big pay.
yeah, yeah.
The money is just a tool.
Yeah, and I think from an employer's point of view, and I would come at it from an employer's point of view, we do probably see some people who come into work for the business, and there's this kind of entitlement where you're paying for my lifestyle. I need that check by Friday because it's going to pay for my car, my fancy new car, my
Yeah,
mortgage. It's going to give me a nice holiday that I can sort of make myself feel good with my family. And you're that's what I want from you. And I think from an employer's point of view, that's where they probably are trapped, is that like, no, this is what I have to deal with. I deal
right,
with this person who
right.
all they care about is a lifestyle of how you're gonna give me a check to pay for my lifestyle.
What okay, alright, right, and you asked me this earlier, I didn't answer the question fully. I'm
Okay.
gonna answer this better now.
Okay.
My fun could be owning an airplane, having a big swimming pool, owning, many houses or something. My fun is in building this business. My fun is in growing these employees. That's my fun. My employees that are here, they all have to make money, and I'd like to see them well paid, and I have a lot of employees who are very, very well paid, but we don't thrive as a company unless we're taking care of our customer. And if I was just trying to extract as much money out of my employees as much work out of my employees as possible so I can personally make money, and they're here to make as much money as they can, most businesses go out of business. And I think that that is not a recipe. That's a recipe for having some sort of business that is not yeah, I'm sure there's businesses that you can just, I'm sure there's businesses that you can make money at that, maybe casinos or something like that. But we're a manufacturing company, we have to make stuff,
Yeah.
and then we have to buy things at the right price, and
Yeah.
it's almost like a whole ecosystem of goodwill.
Mm.
And we thrive more when people's focus is on how can we make this company better, not how much more money can I get out of this company. Because
Mhm.
when people are focused on how much money can I get out of this company, they're not they're not enhancing the relationship with the management team,
Mhm.
and they're not gonna be getting the raises. But when we're all working together, it's phenomenal. Like Steven, when I got him into teaching, I can tell you my company transformed because of Steven, because they learned a lot more about lean manufacturing they didn't know more.
Yeah.
So it probably leveled everybody up 5% at least, and just having a better understanding of what are we doing here. They're happier, They understand how things work. They know how they can improve things.
Mhm.
So I think the money would come to people, but the money is similar to happiness in that when you focus on it, usually it evades you. And when you focus on doing something useful, happiness shows up and so does money. Who do you
So
think my valuable employees are? The ones that are trying to gouge me as much as they can?
Hello, gaffers. Hope you're enjoying the podcast. We love every one of the guests that we have, but in order to bring on more great guests, we'd love to build the channel with you. So hit the subscribe, hit the like button, and let's create a really great community where we bring in better and better guests for you to deliver great content and great pieces of information that you can take back into your business. Now, back to the podcast. Thank you.
So what has your feedback been like when you go into companies and you give your passion talk and you give your mantra, if you don't mind me saying so? What's the kind of feedback that you get when you go into these businesses?
Well, I would say, there's only been a few businesses that I went into. Usually, I go to conferences and things,
Yeah,
and they usually people want to come work for us. That's one thing, and we don't have a problem finding people to hire. So
yeah,
we have a backlog of people that want to come work for us, and that's like that could be a whole nother talk on how we hire.
yeah.
I think originally when I first started this, people were asking me for studies and things that said, "Could you prove it?" And now I think people are like they're just taking it away like, it's
Is it too much about
one of
enough?
the industry's struggles is medical, like their hospitals and things. There's so many regulations, and unionized environments are hard to change. But for small and medium companies, they can start with the idea of like, you can definitely treat people better. The thing is, it's a long term. What typically happens is people will go track those, use the gamma boards. They'll put them up in their factories, and they'll start rewarding people.
Mhm.
But this is pretty new. We have just published this book, so we're just sort of coming out with this. So only been doing podcasts for the past 6 months or so. So this is, I kind of feel like we're, I don't know, an egg hatching or a
You're in the
moth or butterfly coming out, but we're taking what we've been doing internally and bringing it out to the world now.
Okay, so here we have a situation across the world globally. All the tech companies are laying off thousands and thousands of people. Why is that happening? How can you take on thousands of people and then because there's a certain change in this geopolitical environment that you decide to turn around and get rid of all these people? We've also got a situation in construction where, and like other sectors, there's not enough people. The people are not
Right.
there to fulfill the roles. There's gotta be some sort of it can't just be that we can't find the people. People are there. It must be that we just don't have the model where it needs
I
to be.
Yeah, I've heard all these different definitions of what people say success is.
Mm,
These AI giants, these leaders in AI. I think the sunniest suggestion of what success could be is that AI is so great that it makes a living for everybody, and then you can have a choice if you want to live, if you want to
yeah,
work or not. It seems like there's a lot of people that have a lot of opinions of what success is.
mhm,
Some business people say success would be making a lot of money and not having to have employees. I
mhm,
personally think success is creating an environment where people thrive.
yeah,
I think I'm here for people. I think the earth is a great place. I would like it to see people having a place on the earth, you know? And I think it should be about people and having
yeah,
people need to have a purpose.
yeah.
Uh,
And
my
and
wife
I
and
but
I
sorry
go
to
ahead.
cut across you, but I suppose where I was going with it was think in my own opinion is whoever cracks this model and gets it right, which is your model is your thing, which obviously seems
Mhm.
to be working.
Might
But if
try at it.
it's either your model or somebody's model, but somebody who cracks this model is it's going to change the workplace entirely, whether you're in construction or wherever you are. Because I don't think, and I think you're right, I don't think the mainstream framework of how to run a business can be the one that's unified across all businesses. It may be very good for certain aggressive type organizations where a VC might go in and they're just insisting
Okay.
this is how you put this on steroids.
I know okay, I'm gonna land this for you. Here's who I think this book is for and who this idea is for.
Mm,
I think this is for people that have control over their own business, and if they wanna make a decision to change their business, they can.
mm,
I think this is probably for young people that are thinking about getting into business. If I was them, I would start. I wish I had this book when I started my business. I spent a lifetime figuring this out, and now it's thriving. I also think women would thrive in leadership positions in using an environment like this, because I know the system we have now is really based on competition.
Yeah.
And, competition, if you wanted to use that human body analogy, competition in your body, that's like a horrible disease that you die from. I want to compete with my body with other people, not inside of me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah,
I want it
yeah,
to be about collaboration and,
yeah.
so I think the people that would struggle with this are people that have shareholders and partnerships where you have to get a lot of agreement. I'm
Yeah.
fortunate that I can do this because my wife and I own our company. We have all the shares in the company, and I can say, you know what, I'm doing this as an experiment. This is my life. This is our experiment. We get to give this a shot, and this is what we're doing. And I'm just sharing the fruit of having grown a business in this way.
I love it. I absolutely love it, Glenn. We're coming near the end of the show, so if you don't mind, I'm going to throw a few curved balls at you.
Sure.
Are you ready?
With curveballs, I don't know.
Knowing what you know now, this is going to be an interesting one. But knowing what you know now, Glenn, what would you do different in life?
Oh my gosh. I think I wasted about the first 15 years at least in business, but I know that everything has a purpose and I needed every step to get where I am now.
Yeah,
But if I knowing what I know now, I would have been looking out for saying yes to a lot of things that I use my mind too much to say yes and no to different opportunities based on what I wanted, and I would have stopped focusing on what I wanted so much when I was a younger person, and I would have focused on how can I create value for other people? How can I be useful? I think I would have focused on not what do I want, but how can I be useful to other people? The enjoyment and the success and the satisfaction that comes with helping other people, using what I love to do, that's the combination. Using what I love to do to help other people.
I love it. Brilliant. I love it. I know your favorite book because it's probably Emit in terms of.
Yeah, you are correct.
So we'll skip that one because I have it listed written down there somewhere. A point of interest about you that maybe the listeners or the viewers wouldn't automatically get, Glenn. Something, maybe it's a hobby or something about you that, oh, didn't see that.
I yeah, I think that thinking I think knowledge is, I think if you walked around and followed me around, you'd realize what a bumbler I am. And if I was gonna encourage anybody, I would just get people to realize that there's a wisdom in life, and it doesn't have to do with being smart.
Yeah.
It has to do with having an intention of trying to do good for other people. And if you want to do, one of the happy, I don't know what they call them now, but the person that grew up in a institution, and he's about a 10-year-old, like he can ride a bus, he can read a clock, but he cleans people's homes. His name's Keith, and he's one of the happiest people I know. And he just will tell you how he pushes all the furniture one side of the room, cleans the floor, pushes all the furniture the other side, cleans he's one of the happiest people I know. How come there's all these brilliant people I know that are depressed, and then the simplest guy I know is the happiest one I know?
Well, there you go.
So I think it's just taking what you have and aiming at taking it, loving what you do, but knowing it's helping other people.
I love it. Glenn, how would people get in contact with you? Because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people listening to this and saying, "I want to talk to that guy." You've lived it. You've lived the experience, which is what we love in this show, is to get people on this show that had an idea, had the courage and conviction and bravery to implement that idea, and stood over it, rightly or wrongly, and said, "This, I've done this," and
Right,
you've done it you put your own money on and your own
right,
reputation and your own values on the line to do what you've done. And it's a massive credit to you and your team. It's not just you because
right, that's
you
right,
wouldn't have been a success without the team.
that's right.
The book is a human business. It could be how to do culture the right way. There's a couple of different titles you could have
Yeah.
used in that book. You know, people as a value. There's loads of different things you could say. But
Right. Well, here's the book. I don't know if it's just probably an audio, but
we could put a link in the show notes to the book. Is it on Amazon?
yeah, it's on Amazon. Yep, you can order it on Amazon. It'll be on Audibles in June,
Okay.
and you can connect. You can get a hold of me through connect at glennbostock.com. That's Glenn with two N's.
Yeah,
And I've got a website, glennbostock.com. And
I have it here.
if you're if you want to, I'm very interested in this topic. If anybody wants to connect with me, I'd love to hear from them.
Glenn, it's been an absolute pleasure. I would love to get you back on the show again in the future because I think there's a part two to this story somewhere.
There's a lot. There's a lot to this, right? There's definitely a lot to it. Like how we do all this stuff we touched on here,
Yeah.
but how do you actually do it?
How do you execute? And what does that
Yeah,
look like?
yeah,
And what are the outputs? What have been the outputs?
that's right.
We could have done another
We've systematized caring here at SnapCab. I'd love to share our system with you.
Yeah, definitely. We'd love to have you back on the show. Glenn, thank you very much for joining us. I loved the show and we'll see you again in the future.
Great. I really enjoyed being here.